Welcome, everyone. I see people are still coming in. We have a couple people here in person. This is our first in-person meeting in 3 months.
No.
What?
Last night.
Yeah. But I meant for this program.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
for Saturday morning. It's good to be back. It was great to be on retreat. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I think we should start with some meditation. So please find a comfortable position. Settling in and taking maybe a snapshot, a moment to really be present with the body. Adjust your posture to be comfortable. It's good to have the spine straight but relaxed. I want to allow the energy that flows through the body to be able to flow freely. And that works best with a straight spine. But if we tense up, it constricts that energy flow. I just recently saw some information about Western medicine and science discovering that there are these channels that they can now see that they hadn't noticed before, going all through the body. They are calling it the interstitium. And that's probably what our ancient Chinese and Ayurvedic medicines have been referring to and utilizing all these millennia. And it really is a part of meditation that this energy flow or whatever else might be flowing through those channels can move freely. The Buddha was very encouraging of us to make good use of this body while we have it for spiritual development. Some people can feel that energy. Maybe it's a tingling feeling or warmth. Some people can hear it. It's a hum that's steady in the background. But none of that's necessary. It's still happening. It's just that we're all different. We all have different conditioning. We seem to have strength in different channels of experience. And we want to make use of whatever is available in terms of being able to become calm, tranquil, contented, happy. Being happy is quite important to being able to, I might say, drop into or rest into stillness. Into silence. The happy mind is easily concentrated. It's It's within the stillness that insight arises. Whenever we have ideas about all of this needing to take a long time, many years of practice, just let that go. And when I say let it go, I don't mean push it away, get rid of it. It's really about not buying into it. Don't grasp discouraging thoughts. Because Nibbana is here and now, timeless, available. Those same attributes that the Buddha attributed to Dhamma. So we could just use the word Dhamma. Dhamma is available here and now. We have to see it for ourselves, experience it, realize it. And we can live our life from that space, from that position, that ground of being. So as meditators, we need different techniques because we're different. The Buddha gave so many different ways of practice. And various teachers emphasize usually the way that worked for them, which is understandable. Now, we're very fortunate these days because we can access teachings from great teachers quite easily. Travel is so much easier than it was in the past. It's possible to actually go to visit many places where there are master teachers. It's also very accessible online, which is amazing and beneficial. We are living in a time that is incredibly rich with opportunity for support in our practice. But it also comes with some weight. We need to be able to discern what's really trustworthy and also what really works for each of us. So I talk about things from my own experience and of course from the suttas and from teachers I trust. But those might not be the avenues of benefit for you in particular. So noticing what helps you become calm, alert, what touches your heart, what helps you let go. Now, what do we need to let go of? Everything. But also just in the, to really notice the most important things that we cling to, like our sense of self, our cultural conditioning, our social conditioning. It's so strong that we think this is the only way to see things. And it's different. It's not like everyone in the same society or village or family see things the same way because we have different positions in this conventional reality. There's discrimination with regard to gender, race, intelligence, age, so many so many ways in which in this realm, in samsara, things are divided. People, living beings are divided. And it's easy to think that our way is the right way. Everyone else should conform, but it's not possible. And then as we practice and as we gain wisdom, then we recognize how all this conditioning really affects us. It affects everyone. How it's the cause in various components, various causes come together. And the result is what we might say or do or think that may or may not be skillful. To gain insight into this way that things work can really help us be more compassionate and forgiving of ourselves and of others. It's very normal, common for us to look back and say, well, I really did a lot of stupid things. I've had a lot of wrong ideas. It's a sign of growth and development that we now see more clearly, but it's also just inherent in being conditioned into this particular form and into this particular situation. And then by following the interest that we have, you might even call it faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or in another spiritual tradition that really encourages the development of moral virtue and a deeper understanding of reality, that we see our mistakes in the past. Well, may that be an opportunity for joy. I don't do that anymore. Not going to do that again. May it be an opportunity to embrace other people, other living beings with more compassion and kindness, acceptance. But the Dhamma does not encourage us to accept everything. We don't accept immorality. The Buddha said we must reject those thoughts of sensual desire, ill will, and cruelty. And it's not like we reject people, but we really are clear about those kinds of attitudes and behaviors, treatment of others as unacceptable, as the cause for great suffering for those who do it and those who are affected by it. So it's a useful reflection to really take in how we can be compassionate and kind and so clear with wisdom about in this samsaric realm, how important it is to take care of sila, moral virtue. And to be clear and encourage ourselves and others to keep the precepts, be morally upright, to develop generosity and kindness, to say no when things are wrong. And we see so much of it in the world. We can accept that this is how things are in conventional reality, there's the dark and the light. They are inseparable. There's no way to just keep making things better and better. It's like the economy is not just going to get better and better and better and never fall back. It's not how things work here. But our continuing efforts to bring forth what's good, what's wholesome, what's beneficial, what's compassionate and kind and wise are worthwhile. We can see how it matters. Because even when things are at their worst, there's light in some way. We were having a conversation this morning here about some of the courageous actions that come out of some of the most horrible conditions. And this is part of the drama and the trauma of conventional reality. But that's not our only option for abiding. So the Buddha kept encouraging us to really look, really investigate ultimate reality, complete peace, silence, contentment, happiness that doesn't change, the unconditioned. And sometimes that feels far away. And when we think like that again, back to this, don't grasp those thoughts of, oh, I'm so far away, I've got so many problems, I'm going to have to work a long time. Maybe I just don't worry about it till the next life. Any thoughts like that, don't grasp them. Don't take them seriously. Remind yourself that you can do this and you can do it now. Be present with what you're experiencing in the moment. See it with Dhamma. And even if it's like that's a mysterious concept, make the determination to understand, open up to wisdom arising, clarity. Even if what we're aware of is that we're unclear, we're still present and aware. Notice what it feels like. Even like right now, what does it feel like to be listening? What does it feel like to be in the posture you're in? What's it like? It's like this. Describing it with words, it's just like putting labels on it. Now we put labels on things. If we have boxes, storage, or we have whatever the folders in your filing cabinet, you put labels on them. But that doesn't really tell you what the contents are. So be with what it is without the labels, just directly experiencing how you feel, investigating, so you can understand, so you can know. It's like this. that position of observing, of seeing. That's Dhamma. That's mindfulness. And right there is the wisdom of the way things actually are. If we're agitated, agitations like this, the observer isn't agitated. Can do this at any moment. And that's where freedom is. And we can take a deep breath and just feel the relaxation spread through the body. Whatever's going on in your life, we can reflect on how much of it is real. Like, in some sense, nothing in samsara is real. It's all conditions, it's all coming and going, it's not solid. But from another sense, whatever you're feeling, whether it's anxiety or fear, joy or happiness, whatever is passing through, there's a certain reality to that. We have these personalities, we act in certain ways, we have all this conditioning. There's a certain reality to that. You are a human being. You do exist in samsara. And we can know that, see it, and understand it. Understand that it's changing all the time. Understand that this comes from previous conditions. When those conditions change, our personality changes. It's not to try to get rid of anything, to try to condemn anything. The part that witnesses is not judging. If there is judging, then that's the thinking mind. For criticizing the critic, that's the thinking mind. You can step back. One step back from that is the witness of the critic. The witness of the thinking mind knows it for what it is. Not to be rejected or despised or anything, but just neutral observance. And the more we spend or bring our attention to that observation and what's observing, what's knowing, the more we come to understand Dhamma, Nibbana, freedom, relief. This is a process that we affect by our own choice, our own determination. We don't have control, but we have influence. That's why the Buddha told us to do this. He said he knew we could do it. He wouldn't tell us otherwise. He wouldn't tell us to do it if we couldn't do it. And when you feel like, but the obstacles are so many and so large in my own experience, just don't buy into that. Find your way around it. Find your practice that works for you, that brings peace. So the Buddha made this very general, directional sign of if it leads to peace, you're on the right track. If it leads away from peace, turn around, go back the other way. It's not the right thing. And we can notice that in our daily activities. Thinking like this, speaking like that, is it leading to peace? Sometimes things that are hard to say and hard to hear are leading to peace. Can we recognize that? Facing the difficult things, the difficult emotions, resisting trying to suppress them, express in a way that builds them up, resisting those two unproductive avenues, instead being present with, being willing to learn something new about ourselves, no matter how painful it is. Because that's the way out of suffering. So now we'll slowly draw this meditation to a close. So over the past 3 months, we've been using this time to talk about suttas, and today, now we've got our Sutta Study back on track. So I'm not going to talk about a sutta today, but I thought I'd share a few thoughts and some experience around the winter retreat we just had. I really want to encourage you, if you aren't already in the sort of mode of taking time for retreat, I'd really want to encourage you to do that. See if you can do that a couple times this year. It's so beneficial. And even if your retreat time is isolated in your own home, if you set it up so that you don't have to be involved in things outside or very minimally, and you can have time to yourself, and you can use the methods that really are beneficial for you. That's also a reasonable choice, to give yourself the time. It's interesting with monastic retreats. So I've been in robes since 2005. So this is like my 21st year, I guess. And so I've been in different situations in monastic retreat settings, in large groups like at Amaravati and Chithurst, in England, in smaller monasteries, viharas, and in our own vihara. Even in a setting where there's a retreat happening that's more like the kind of modern retreat style. You know, many of you know, if you go to a retreat center, there's really a more likely to be complete, almost complete silence among people. And there's a very, you know, oftentimes a very rigorous schedule for the group. And this can be very good, but it's not my experience of monastic retreat. You take a 3-month retreat, and maybe for people who have only experienced that kind of formal retreat in a retreat center, you think the monastics are silent for 3 months, but I've never seen it. It's just, I think it's because in monastic life, the practice is so deeply integrated with everything else. And so there's a lot of silence and practice, but it's integrated with time in the community, time with other individuals. It's often integrated with study, maybe artistic projects, different things different modalities that can be used. And rest is a very important part of it too. To allow the whole system to reset and recharge. And during this retreat that we just had, this was our first winter retreat, you know, so the tradition we follow, the Thai forest tradition, generally they, in the Western monasteries, have a winter retreat, 3 months usually of time. And we've never taken this period as retreat time, because in the early years of Karuna Buddhist Vihara, I knew that the other monasteries were all going to be on retreat, and I felt like it was good for somebody to be available for people who needed support. So I was asked by the Aloka Vihara nuns to sub for the programs that they usually gave and that kind of thing. So I was kind of the one who would be sort of on call, you might say. And then, you know, starting a vihara, there's I need to kind of stay engaged, because just to get things going. So anyway, this is a couple of years ago, we did a retreat during the Vasa, during the rains time, which is full moon of July to full moon of October. And this year we decided to do this kind of traditional winter retreat, which I loved doing it this time of year. I have to confer with Ayya Chitananda whether she prefers winter or summer, but I think it's winter. Maybe, I don't know, we'll talk about that more, but it's like, it's a quieter time in this climate in many ways. And it was also felt nice. Like, I've been listening to Ajahn Sumedho's talks quite a bit, and going to be in sync with the community in England and the other communities in the tradition about, you know, kind of where you are in this retreat process. Okay, in the beginning, you know, like settling into retreat, having the, you know, intentions for what you want to do at this time, and then coming to the end of the retreat, you know, how that feels and what you're, you know, kind of how to manage that transition, those kinds of things. So it's been a really, for me at least, a really good time to have this opportunity. And we had wonderful stewards, all of you who helped It's just, there's so much gratitude. And for me, many of you probably know, like, the intention for my life has been this way for quite a long time now, is primarily to awaken and to help as many people as possible to do the same. And I guess it's like 8 years ago now that we first visited Ajahn Ganha, 2018, I think. Yeah. And from that time, he's been, I've known about him for more than 20 years, 25, maybe 30 years, as his reputation is so solid. And he's been giving us advice. And I do everything I can to take it, to learn, to understand, what he means. Some of the early advice was you have to let go of comfort. And that's what made it, I think, more possible for me to move from town to the Hermitage. That was certainly a letting go of comfort activity. and things like that. When he talked to us the last time we visited, he invited us upstairs to just talk to us personally about practice. And, he said a lot of the same things he tells everybody. But, to really take in what he's saying and try to understand, like he said, you have to enter the right path of practice. And the thought is, well, I've been practicing a long time. Am I not in the right path of practice? What could I be missing? What, really take in what he's saying and investigate it. What is he talking about? And then he's, giving some clues. Renounce the sense of self. Well, can I just do that? Is it possible to just say, okay, no sense of self? Not so easy. But investigating, what does that mean? Take the Dhamma as your basis. Work just for the sake of work. Be happy in your work. Have sati, samadhi, and panya all the time. What kind of samadhi is that? Like while you're doing everything, while you're talking to each other, while you're working, when you're silent. What is it like to have samadhi all the time? Mindfulness all the time. Wisdom all the time. And then he was, there's more that I'm not going to share about what he's told us. But one thing that I will share is that he repeatedly encouraged having respect for Ajahn Sumedho. And that was a really interesting sign. Because when I started listening to Ajahn Sumedho's talks, many of you know this, it felt like he was putting more detail and shape on what Ajahn Ganha was telling me. More, coming from the culture my culture is so valuable for people who go to train. I realized this a long time ago. Like my son went to Thailand to train with, in Ajahn Chah's international monastery, Thailand. So I met a lot of Western monks, and I really saw how valuable it is for someone to train in a tradition with these kinds of master teachers, Kruba Ajahns, and then go back to their own culture and teach. Because hearing it through your own language, through your own social kind of in sync with your own social conditioning is so valuable. And so, and Ajahn Sumedho has been putting the detail of, how do you let go of the sense of self? How do you renounce the sense of self? How do we even see what that actually is and how thoroughly it permeates everything, the way we think, the way we perceive, the way we act, our habits, this very strong habit of thinking I am a solid entity that is this self that owns things, that has things, that all these acquisitions. And then you see the reinforcement in the suttas of the Buddha talking about letting go of everything you've acquired, that you've acquired a body by being born, that you've acquired sanya, perceptions, memories, you've acquired sankharas, all of its sankharas. But if you're talking about the khandhas, the thinking process, the way that our mind works, we've acquired sense consciousness. How do you let go? How do you not operate from that? Or you operate through it, but in a different way with Dhamma. It's very interesting. There's so much to setting aside our conditioning in order to see in a new way, see clearly. So during this retreat, there was a point where and I've done this often, I ask the Buddha, and I'm not like, I don't think the Buddha is alive somewhere answering prayers. That's not what I'm talking about. But that's where the cultural conditioning goes. But the Buddha, the awakened mind, like out of respect, there's so much respect and gratitude that I have for the historical Buddha, but the awakened mind, that awakeness, the knowing, and then the arahants. So I was like, the Buddha, the arahants, and the devas, asking for their help. It may sound really funny. I don't know if you can kind of grasp what that is, but grasping is kind of not recommended, but I think you know what I mean. Kind of get a sense of that. Anyway, I did that at one point. I said, because it felt like I was kind of coming up against a wall of understanding, and that kind of asking, I think one of the effects is that it brings an added layer of humility and openness. And then something happened. Like there was influx of a kind of confidence that this practice of observing, witnessing what we experience is so doable in any moment. And being present with what I was feeling in that moment, like, with those, like, it's like this. Something happened. And there was such an experience of peacefulness and contentment, silence, and confidence. I think it might be the first time that I felt like, yeah, I really can see how this could be timeless and a kind of ground of happiness and kindness that could be beyond time, like I said, beyond time. And then there was just this happiness um, that lasted a while, but I knew that it's not going to last for always. I live in this body and this life. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of feelings and experiences and concerns. And even on retreat, you get bits and pieces of the news, and it's like, oh my. But I had the confidence that then, and the commitment that every felt experience can be addressed, if you will, or it can be present with every felt experience from this place of Dhamma, of witnessing. And that makes it possible for this shift in the present moment of whatever is occurring. Like, we don't have to kind of put up with irritation and frustration and anger, if that arises, or whatever arises. We don't have to like go with it. It's like we can observe it. Things have been different since, and I'm not making any claims. I don't know what's next, but I feel like, when Ajahn Sumedho says trust awareness, that this is something that we all can do. And I'm really convinced that we can reject the kinds of thoughts that discourage us, regardless of what they are, regardless of how we undermine ourselves or put ourselves down or criticize ourselves. Just we have this opportunity to observe that critical mind and those negative, down pulling thoughts. We have the ability to be present with whatever's happening with the body. We can't control that. We might be able to influence it. We can't control it. We get to learn to be present with it, that whatever happens to it is not yours anyway. It's going to have its own karma. It does what it does, but we can be present with that. And we can also encourage each other and seek encouragement from each other. But it's not nearly as complicated. This whole process is not nearly as complicated as often we think it is. It starts with a willingness to let go of whatever we thought or believed or invested in before. It might feel a little like stepping out into midair, but that's okay. I mean, if we trust the Buddha, if we trust a teacher that's been there and seen it themselves, then we can step out in midair because they've told us that the Dhamma safety net is there. It's okay. You can let go of it. Whatever it is we think we're protecting ourselves with, we can let it go. It's not really a protection, it's a prison. And sometimes the mood of the mind is the backdrop. Kind of like it can be happy, it can be hopeful, it can be contented, it can be depressive, it can be based in fear, but we don't have to buy into that either. I get used to silence, get used to peacefulness. And even if there's restlessness, it's like the restlessness can be kind of this one layer, but the peacefulness is behind it. Or we can have a lot of noise in our life, maybe a noise physically or noise in our mind, but there's quiet, there's silence behind it. And we get used to that ground. And it's not exciting. See, the human body and mind, the human, there's all these chemicals in our body that push us to desire and have aversion and all kinds of things. There's all these habits of wanting to do something, grab the phone, have something going on, and we have to get used to, the silence and the stillness and the uneventfulness of nibbana. Really. But once we recognize that kind of bliss, it grows on you. You start to experience the stability. And the sense of self isn't there. And that's probably one of the main indicators when we're not coming from the place of the sense of self, then there's nothing to protect. And there's nothing to fear. I've known for a long time that the only thing to fear is wrongdoing, because that makes karma, that makes it harder for us. Harder for everyone in our life. But when we start to settle into Dhamma, into peacefulness, then there really is nothing to fear. The mind doesn't incline toward wrongdoing. I mean, it's always possible that someone feels bad about something we say, for example. It's not like coming from that place of not greed, hatred, or delusion is actually going to be something perfect, because there's all this complexity in all of our conditioning, the way we hear things, the access we have to the way we express ourselves. This is all conditioned. So it might be something that someone could feel offended by. It's not going to be perfect as long as we're in this form. We still have this personality, this conditioning. But the purity of where it comes from goes a long way to harmlessness. It's so amazing how fortunate we are to have this Dhamma available to us. And this opportunity to wake up and really see the true nature of conventional reality and the existence of the unconditioned. Don't pass up any chance to practice. And don't think practice is just meditation. It's everything you do. I wish for every one of you the freedom from all defilements, the joy of Nibbana. Do you have any comments, questions, or anything? What's gonna want? Oh, Martin. Hi, Martin. Hey, Martin, it's good to see you.
You too. I have a question.
Yes.
And it's about one thing that you said, which is we have to find teaching that we can trust and also that works with us. But I find it to be hard because sometimes people say things that we don't agree with. And then sometimes going against that and just, giving it a try. It can be very helpful. And it turns out that maybe there was some conditioning or something like that that led us to not believe that. And it's extremely important for growth that we, work with that. And there's so much things out there that we can only look into so many things. And because of all these reasons, I find it just very hard to know.
Right. It is true that there are so many choices. We do need to develop skill in discerning, I've been fortunate to have so many, real personal experiences with a lot of the monastics from the Ajahn Chah tradition over the years. But then meeting Ajahn Ganha, it became clear that he was who I really wanted and I could resonate with and really follow. And then Ajahn Sumedho, the way he talks about his experience is so similar to mine, that I knew that this was the resonance I needed, and the kind of that way of approaching practice. But you look at someone like Ajahn Suchart, he has a totally different approach, really, through like deep jhana meditation, and for some people that is the way. Like Ton Alex is living there at his monastery and following that, and we're all different, but we do have to gain the skill of narrowing the field, and also like Ajahn Gana says things that I don't follow. Like when I can't remember, were you there for the coffee enema year? I think you were. It's like, okay, now you're gonna have coffee enemas, and we're like, what? And then of course it was optional, and like you don't trust absolutely everything someone says. You still have to have your own discernment and wisdom around what's right for you. And that's a health thing. I don't have to necessarily follow even a Kruba Ajahns. This is not blind faith. I don't have to follow everything that they say. I can see, okay, they're like into this thing for now, where they're, like he was really, so was a post-pandemic, he was really like interested in health stuff. And there's a lot of health experience of stuff in my background. I'm not going to ignore all that. I don't know if that's making any sense, but we need discernment even around what a really respected, trusted teacher says. And like you said, sometimes we have to, like a lot of times, it didn't matter who it came from. It could be from someone I had not much respect for at all. Someone who is displaying a lot of defilements that I'm in kind of contact with, but they might say something to me that I really bristle, and then I know I have to investigate that in myself, because why am I bristling? So what you're saying about, there's times we have to like pick up the practice anyway, even though I don't want to do it. That could be something that's really important. I feel like the more resistance I have, now I'm talking about wholesome practices, and we need to know what that is, because we're not going to pick up something that's not wholesome, definitely not. But if it's something that this person that we're being told about the way we're acting or the way we're seeing things, and we can see that there's nothing negative in it, but we're really resistant, that's a good place to look. I think what you said about trying something and seeing how it affects you, this is good. Like take a step in that direction and then see what you discover there. And it's also true that something that leads to peace in the long run may not feel very peaceful in the short term, because we're fighting, I don't like that word, we're really addressing, we're really digging into our own unskillful conditioning. I also recognize for myself that I don't need to live with Ajahn Gana. I can go, I can listen to him, I can maybe have some specific conversation or advice from him or not. But then I can come back here. He said that right away when, like the second time that I visited, he's like, yeah, and then you go back to California and practice. It's like, you don't have to maybe have a lot of interaction with someone that you're following. Ajahn Sumedho, I lived there when he was an abbot like 20 years ago, but I haven't visited him in a long, long time, and I don't need to. He's laying it all out clear. I don't have to bother him, with anything. I can learn, and I don't have to believe everything. I don't believe. This is the Buddha said. Don't believe anything just because someone told you, even if you trust them. You got to investigate it and understand it for yourself. So that's really, I think, where the question is. How do I really practice with what I'm hearing from teachers so that I know for myself that this is a way towards freedom? And I'm experiencing that change in myself. That's really up to us. That's really up to us. And if we feel like we're hitting a wall, we're blocked in some way, we have to look for an avenue to get through it or around it ourselves. Even like, my supplication to the Buddha, the Arahants, and the Devas, or, taking that time to set up an opportunity for quiet, for practice, for reflection. Or, sometimes people are up hard against some kind of trauma reaction, and they need to get some somatic experiencing help. There's so many different possibilities for the ways that we can work through our stuff. And we don't have to work through all of our stuff, just whatever's coming up. Is that helping at all, Martin?
It is helping. But I want to react a little bit about my personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think initially you gave two examples that are Santussikā and Ajahn Ganha.
Mm-hmm.
But these are both in the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Mahabua. So that's already narrowing it a lot, right?
That's already narrowing it a lot, and I use those examples because that's where my experience is.
But I
never talk about Burmese teachers because I have no experience with them.
But for my own situation, like one option would be to just explore what's around, because I'm in San Francisco right now, and I don't have a car, so it's a bit hard to, for example, come to KBV if I don't plan ahead. So I could explore what's around me, but those would be then very different traditions, by maybe Mahayana or maybe lay teachers or things like that. And in terms of, let's say, listening to Ajahn Sumedho and maybe also to Ajahn Ganha, because they release their talks every day on YouTube in Thai.
Yep.
I find with both of them, they're just so repetitive.
Yeah. You wanted to go in.
Mind, like we've already listened to this. Why?
Yeah. Then it's like, but do I really understand it? And maybe it's not going to become clearer because I hear it 150 times, but maybe I have to stop the recording, or maybe I have to just take those, as Ajahn Sumedho calls them, directional signs, and really work with them deeply. It's not just about listening to Dhamma talks, it's about like, what do I really know what the right path of practice is, and how do I find out? And what do I really know what it means to renounce a sense of self, and how do I do that? And so it's like it's up to us to take it deeper, to really investigate, to try to understand what that is. And we get our clues, our indications from the suttas, the Buddha's own words, from different teachers maybe, but also really becoming quiet in ourselves and letting whatever that voice is. Like Ajahn Sumedho talks about, sometimes when he heard a voice, like when he was, teaching English in Bangkok, and he was thinking about ordaining, and he was going back and forth and back and forth. And he said, and then there was this voice that just said, just shut up and ordain. I've heard voices like that. It's not my own voice. It's not coming from anybody else in my life. But it's like, do this, I don't know, maybe something like that comes up. What if you don't hear that voice? Well, you keep opening yourself up and asking for the wisdom to know what to do. I never had the attraction for any other tradition. I didn't have the attraction for other types of Buddhism, but I know that they work for other people. I didn't have the attraction to follow lay teachers because I never had that kind of trust. I feel like I know that many of them, they can have a lot of wisdom. It could be some right connection for somebody, but it just wasn't my way. So knowing yourself, what touches your heart, like what is it that's going to help you break through the habits you have? You don't have to come to KBV in person. We can still talk to you, obviously. And you're not that far away.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my teaching does it for you. My teaching is certainly not going to do it for many people. But if you want friends who are serious, we're here, So it's really important to be discerning and not just like, oh, well, I'm busy. I don't really have time. Busy with what? It's not going to change. It's the same crap over and over again. You really got to take it seriously. Find any clue about what to do that's going to move this. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good.
And I do want to say your teaching does it for me.
Well, then keep coming. Online, in person, whatever you can manage. You're only in San Francisco. That is not like so far away. Get on Caltrain and come down. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I can give you a ride if needed.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, she's back. Hi.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
Anne?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm on my headset, which is
Yep,
yours.
I can
Okay.
hear you perfectly.
Okay. Well, I'm really speaking to say how deeply moved and touched I have been through the whole past series and being here today. And it's such an incredible gift. So, it's 100 days of gratitude time, which some other people may be knowing, but I'm just so grateful to have KBV and you guys in my life. So thank you. And so my preoccupations are, the first is life is so wonderful and I want to keep on living. And that's just sort of, can be a preoccupation, but I do a lot of things to make that happen. And the other thing that I get caught in is concerns for grandchildren. And these are not concerns for people in great trouble, but it's people who are making progress in their lives. And I want to see that what they want is what they get, in different realms. Two of them particularly in a transition point, and they both have good options, but there are, blocks. So that's what I wake up in the night about, concerned. And so, I just, as a grandma and as a parent, I know you have some of those kinds of things. And I just wonder how you deal with that. Probably not the first time I've raised this, but nevertheless, I need a booster on how to cope with preoccupations about whether other people are happy.
So this is a very important question because it gives the perfect example, for me at least, of this practice of being present with it. Yes, I have a granddaughter who's just now this year graduating from high school, looking at her options for college. And, you know, I really want her to have the best. I know exactly what you're saying. And I also understand this feeling of, well, my life's pretty good. We have other people in this community who say, but my life's pretty good. You know, I keep talking about dukkha, and, you know, and they're like, yeah, but I have a pretty good life. But you also have dukkha. Clearly, it's that dukkha that's making you wake up in the night. And that is our avenue of our gateway to Nibbana. You know, when the Buddha said the door to the deathless, the gate to the deathless is open, and he was talking about, you know, the Dhamma, he was talking about mindfulness, because it's mindfulness that helps us recognize that there is dukkha, the first noble truth. It's mindfulness that helps us to understand that dukkha. So when you wake up in the night with thoughts about the grandchildren and what might happen, first of all, the mind can generate all kinds of possibilities, good and bad, scary, terrifying, you know, and it's all out of your hands. You might be able to do something to encourage them in a good direction or support them materially, but truth is, it's all out of your hands. And so is so much of life, no matter what it is. We have these ideas about, there's somebody at the door who's going to be someone take care of that. There's all these things that are possible sources of suffering. Our mind can create anything. We have to know that we're just making stuff up. We think about the future, we're just making stuff up. We remember the past, it's just a memory, you know, all of the feelings attached to it. All we need to do is turn toward it and observe it, because it goes away again. It all comes and goes. We have to start seeing the ephemeral nature of all of the sankharas that we are entirely surrounded by and made up of as impermanent and dukkha. Because even though we have a pretty good, comfortable life by comparison, we've got all our coping mechanisms to deal with the discomfort. There's plenty of discomfort when you're hitting 80. There's plenty of discomfort in the 70s. There's plenty of aging, sickness, and death is not something any of us are going to escape, because we've already been born. So there's dukkha. And the dukkha is the way, is what we need to use for the way out. Because being present with that. So you wake up in the night, you have this thought, and then you go, it's like this. And the key to knowing, well, what's happening when you do that? It's a way of turning inwards and really directly feeling what you feel. It's a way of contacting that, what's the whole landscape of it, the whole context of it, the whole feeling of it. And when we do that, it's like this. There's also the Dhamma there. It's like this. It's this attachment that I have. I'm grasping these grandchildren. I'm grasping the hopes for their future. And all of that is impossible to hold on to. It's just going right through our hands. And to see that, to know that. And then observe what happens. What happens for me is a relaxing, it's a cooling. That's what Nibbana means, is cooling. This is Nibbana here and now. You do that over and over again, every time. Then you're witnessing the circumstances and conditions of your life and the feelings and all the arising and ceasing of phenomena in the context of Dhamma. And pretty soon you're not entangled in a million sankharas. You can do this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nora?
Thank you. I was so inspired by your talk, Ayya. Thank you so much for sharing the your time on retreat. And I wanted to share something and kind of get a read, if it makes sense at all to you, of a non-self experience.
Okay.
I'm not in Minnesota at the moment, and which is where I live. But recently I met somebody in the spot where I am who was raised here. Just to say, we're like the same age, we're born in the same month, we're both raised in the same faith. There's so much of like our conditioning that is the same.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we then, remember when, I don't know, when your kids were little or you were little and you played with those Play-Doh machines, and then you put the Play-Doh in and pressed it, and then like a star would come out or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like
The
seeing
cookie cutter, huh?
like a cookie cutter sort of. It's like
Yeah.
human beings are like this, the Play-Doh or the cookie dough, and then we go through this mold of like causes, conditions, and also then the perceptions that we form based on our cultural and social economic conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out. And it's not to say that she and I are exactly the same by any means, but it's so similar. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, it makes it feel like, oh, it's just conditioning. It's just like the way the perceptions got formed so
Yep.
early. And uh it's kind of like a relief, or it's kind of like funny. I don't know. I just wanted to share that and see if that makes sense at all, or if you have
Totally
any.
makes sense. It totally makes sense. And you can also expand your understanding of all kinds of other things that happen to human beings. Our conditioning towards racism and sexism and every other kind of discrimination, our views about everything. And we start to recognize that these views and opinions are just sankharas. It's just conditioning. We begin to have more compassion for ourselves and for others. We're less like focused on this me and mine and all of my conditioning, because it's everywhere and it's everybody's, and it's all, like you look at people who are doing terrible things to other people, and you can start to understand that there's so much conditioning there, and that ignorance. So now, in the Sutta Study part of our programs, we're going to be talking about dependent origination for this spring period, 3 months. And it's really looking at how do we stay engaged and perpetuating this cycle of birth and aging and death, and how we can keep this cycle of suffering going, and how we step out of it. When there's no more ignorance, the cycle collapses.
Mhm.
And what is the ignorance? It's the sense of self. It's the belief that we're a separate being. We're this separate individual being in this vast universe with all of the dangers and uncertainties. And then we develop these ways of trying to make ourselves comfortable and safe. And it doesn't work. And that's the problem we have. And then when we see that for what it is, it's just, we're not separate. And there's no discrimination of good and bad and right and wrong and black and white and male and female and whatever else in Nibbana. It's featureless and unitive. And that's the alternative. That's what is true. That's the ground of our being. That's what, Ajahn Chah would call our home, our real home. That's what we recognize when we say it's like this. What's observing that? Where's that coming from? Where does that voice of shut up and ordain or whatever, let go of those grandchildren, let go of their future and trust their karma. It's up to them now. So yes, that's a beautiful kind of recognition of your not individual self. When we're proud of ourselves, what are we proud of? When we think we are better than someone else, what are we doing? We're comparing our khandas to somebody else's khandas. It's ignorance. And we think we're worse than somebody else, same thing. This is not, we're not what we think we are. It's way better than that. I know I'm talking about better and worse again. We're in samsara. We've got conventional reality. Language is all divisive. It's all dualistic. But the pointers are to what is not like that. Unconditioned, unborn, uncreated. And then it's loving, unconditionally loving. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, I think we're at the end of the time for today. And I really wish you all well. And I want to let you know that the Sutta studies for this 3-month period on dependent origination are being recorded and they're posted. And the links to those are in the community WhatsApp. So if you're not on the community WhatsApp and you're participating in whatever programs KDV is offering, you can request that on our website to join. And you can also find the links to these things on our website under teachings and the spring program. The point being, we're recording it, but we're not editing it, and we want to have access for people to have access to those and participate as they wish. Yeah, so take good care of yourself. We next week, Saturday, Grace is going to be teaching or leading this program. We're going to be in Spain ordaining. So right now, Anagarika Sujata as a seminary. It's very sweet. You know her as Sarana, I think, from the days when she lived with us. And it's really a blessing to be able to help her move into brown robes. And then we'll be back here in 2 weeks. And if you look at the schedule for the Sutta Study program, you'll have an idea of when we're around and when we're not around. And also our calendar should say that too. But we have other people taking over Saturday mornings when we're not here. So there's like 3 of those coming up at some point. Yeah.